Okay, good morning. If you are watching this video, it's because you did not connect with me last week face-to-face on Teams for some individual feedback as a group on what you could improve perhaps on that singular ops design slide, the overview slide that we had. So for those of you that are dialing in, I've looked at all the slides. Let me give you some feedback on some things that I'm seeing, and this will apply because these are very common cadet challenges. So first, we'll just go phase by phase and kind of how we're looking at this. So first thing I'm often seeing is that there is a clear disconnect between the lines of effort and the national objectives or end states. I'm looking for a logical flow from top down to the end to make sure that what we are doing is actually going to change and better said, it's going to achieve our national and military end states and objectives. So if there's no linear linkage there, there's no logical flow, then that's an immediate thing I'm looking at. Why are you electing to do these lines of effort when they don't seem to be having any impact whatsoever in achieving your military objectives? Okay, now, phase by phase, on the objectives and end states. To be clear, they are different things, right? You guys know that, but I think some of you may have missed the idea behind it. So you will have very clear national objectives, which are really driven from really the national security strategy, and the national end state, which is really coming directly from the national security strategy. From a military perspective, likewise, you'll probably derive those things from formal documents, national defense strategy, national military strategy, posture statements, whatever you decide as a group that is relevant, but they're going to be very distinct, separate things. So really in that top part of that slide, there really should be kind of 4 different categories: national end states and national objectives, military end states and military objectives, and they should be mirrored on each other, I guess, or the military objectives should be nested in the national things. So that's something I saw a lot. The groups were not clear on that. They were very vague. They were different. Again, the end state should be very clear on kind of what it looks like when you get there. Peace in Iraq, right? Stable government, self-sustaining Iraqi government. Done. That is what it should look like. That's the end state, right? Very broad, but it supports our broader national end state. Okay, moving down, phase 2, PMISI elements. I'm seeing a lot of things, guys, where the PMISI is confusing. You guys are putting yourself in a little box on the PMISI construct. You are identifying facts. You know, it's a democratic government, or it is a $30 billion oil revenue in this country or whatever from an economic perspective. But that is really irrelevant to what is helping, it's really quite irrelevant to the whole context of the problem or the situation you guys have in achieving your military objectives. So make sure that it is relevant. Don't feel pigeonholed or buttoned into that little box of PMISI. That's just a guideline. You know, look at political considerations you need to look at. Look at military, economic, social infrastructure, and look at those things that might influence your situation and the battle space you're in. It's really just a tool to help you really look at what's going on in the battle space. So if there's other factors, feel free to throw those in there. It is irrelevant that they have a really large military perhaps, but it is very relevant that they have a robust air defense system if your objective is that you're going into the country to go bomb things, right? That's kind of what you think you might have in mind. Suddenly the air defense system is very relevant. So make sure you're focusing on relevant information. If there's something in there in that PMISI element, I will ask you, why are you telling me that they're led by an autocratic leader? Like, what does that have to do with anything in my military construct? You should be able to answer that question. If you can't answer that, you should probably remove it from the PMISI and then focus again on what is relevant, okay? Third phase, we've got using that broad analysis we've done, we can hopefully identify there's some problems in our scenario, and there's some desired conditions in our scenario, and those are all driven by what our military end states and objectives are. So if we want to achieve something in the military, have some objective in mind, the operational environment is going to inform what's the problem. You know, what problems might be, what obstacles might be there. So you should probably have 2 or 3 problematic conditions. You know, there's a problem, we want peace, but actually, I won't even go into examples. I'll let you guys fight through that because I tend to confuse you and confuse myself at times when I start coming up with examples on the fly. But from a problematic condition perspective, it is a very clear thing that is inhibiting you from achieving your military end states. So some of you are not very discrete or specific in your problems. Likewise, your end states or your desired conditions should be the opposite of those problematic conditions, right? Again, we use the example, North Korea has nuclear launch capabilities. That's a problem, right? Our desired condition is North Korea is unable to launch nuclear missiles. Done. Problem, solution. We're going to try to draw the lines and the subsequent steps on how to get from point A to point B and fix it. We're going to shape the battle space. Often, you will need to consider what kind of things you need to just remove, add, or continue to keep in the battle space to achieve your objectives. Okay, the next step, we're looking at specifically objectives, PMISI, problematic conditions, desired conditions, centers of gravity. Okay, the next thing we're looking at is centers of gravity. I would encourage you deeply to look at the broad reading that we're going to be doing this week that's going to help recharacterize centers of gravity as we move forward. Okay, your center of gravity, you should have a friendly center of gravity and an adversary center of gravity. And this is the thing that if we can disrupt that thing, it'll help us achieve it'll help us knock down that barrier, if you will, from our problem conditions to our desired conditions. The center of gravity is a singular source of all strength whereby we're going to protect our assets or we're going to align our offensive assets against that center of gravity, hopefully, in a direct approach or an indirect approach. And if you have questions on that, you can ask Captain Farquhar this week in some of the sessions online, or you can read the textbook or review the readings that we have coming up. So, but some of you did not have good centers of gravity identified, or they're very vague or nebulous. Make sure that they are specific such that you can actually target those guys. Okay, the last thing, we're developing our lines of effort. From a line of effort perspective, these are going to be 3 or 4 things. You probably want to have a few things that are focused on the adversary center of gravity, and a few things that are maybe one thing that's focused on protecting your center of gravity. So a very common mistake I saw, guys, is that your lines of effort, I'd have see some great ideas, but they were not aligned with anything I saw up to that point. We are bombing a missile facility, but there's no notion or no mention anywhere in the rest of the brief that there's any missile facilities anywhere. It's not in your PMISI analysis. It's not in your COG analysis. It's not part of anything. So make sure that you have your lines of effort are either focused directly on the center of gravity or indirectly on a critical vulnerability on that center of gravity. That is an extremely common thing I saw. Many lines of effort has zero impact or zero anything to do with anything above it. So this goes back to my first thing I look at on the briefing is what are they doing here at the bottom? What are they doing in their lines of effort, and how does that align with their military objectives, and where's the logical flow and linkages? So those are some of the common things I saw. Continue to be creative in your slide deck. Look at the template slide we have on Teams now that'll provide an overview on how to accomplish this broader briefing. And if you have any questions, holler. But those are very common mistakes. We will engage further. I would encourage you to ask Captain Farquhar this week. This would be the week to do it, to get a clear vector check from him on where to move out on this. He teaches MSS 251. He's very effective. He's been doing this a while, so he knows what he's talking about. So engage with him on Tuesday or Thursday if you have any questions specifically to what I've described to you guys. For all of you that submitted it, I detected a sense that you guys did good work, so I gave everybody full points for the operational design overview slide. So everybody got 25 full points. I didn't deduct any points for that because the intent was really just keep you on track. But hopefully that'll help. Thanks a lot. Hope all is well. Keep your heads up, guys. All right, out here.